What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back here with another Amazon documentary review. This is episode 5, which we'll be reviewing. But just before I start, I just want to mention about our last man standing Football Survivor League. That is going on. The deadline to join is on Friday as the season starts on Saturday. All you need to do is pick a team to win. If your team wins, you go through to the next round. If your team loses or draws, you are out. It is £5 to enter and a winner takes all right at the end.
This is following all the Premier League games week by week. So
exactly.
every Premier League week, you pick a team to win, and then you progress to the next round. If they win, if they don't win, you get knocked out, and it's the last man standing takes all the money. So there's some money to be won.
There is, and link will be in the description below how you can download the app and how you can join our league. Just download the app, type in our league code, and you're ready to go. Now, episode 5, which I thought was the best episode yet.
Yeah, what an episode, man. It was exhilarating. There's some really, really good stuff here I really want to talk about. I can't wait because there's some such good insight into the background of things. Great interviews of Jose Mourinho and interactions with other players. So I can't wait to get into it.
So it starts off with the transfer committee and the chat with Levy and Steve Hitchin and everyone else who's around that table who I don't really know, to be honest.
I don't know all the names, but Levy's heading the transfer committee, and because January's just started, obviously Harry Kane's now been ruled out for 3 months, and Tottenham are looking for a striker, and they're talking about how they have to stay ahead of the game, how they, cause Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea and these clubs are all kind of targeting the same pool of players. Tottenham have to be obviously a bit smarter in the market, and they're just detailing how they try and go through that kind of process.
And they're also talking about the profile of player that Jose Mourinho wants, and it's a very specific profile of player.
They don't really say what the profile player is. They just say Mourinho has a certain profile of player that he details to the committee, and then they go and look for that profile.
Yeah, and they were saying that the profile of the player, it's so difficult to get someone of that profile, and the pool of players of his kind of profile is tiny, pretty much. That's what they were saying. And that moves us on with the chat that it looks like in like the lunchroom kind of thing with Davis, Eriksson and Kane. What did you make out of that?
Yeah, so it was quite an interesting chat. You kind of get the players' perspective of January, because obviously you get the fans' perspective always wanting a signing, you get the coaching perspective always wanting to improve the squad. But then you got Davis chatting with Kane and Eriksson, and he was saying basically, why are teams in January never settled? Why when it comes to January, a team isn't just looking to, isn't settled in their way, and every team's always looking to sign someone. There has to be a new player all the time. He's saying, like, whatever happened to letting a player develop, giving a player minutes and time to bring his game on, and then become fulfilling their full potential. Always when someone's either not performing or is not performing to their full potential, everyone just wants a new signing all the time. Everyone just wants to sign someone. Yeah,
I thought it was interesting, but I think that in our case, at that moment in time, it was a bit of a different situation because we had so many injuries.
Yeah.
So I get their point to a certain extent, but in that specific situation, I don't really think it was too valid, to be honest.
But do you think I think you're right. I think because we obviously needed a striker at the time desperately, and we still do. I can't believe we still haven't signed one, but I think it was just interesting because I think Kane and Eriksson, they kind of half agreed with him, saying not that we don't need a signing, but they were just saying like always this push for a new signing in all these positions, just because at that time maybe a player is performing, and maybe giving player more opportunities. I think there is something to that, and I think Davis was just saying how the transfer market's gone a bit crazy, and how there's always, if a player is not performing at that time, everyone always wants a new signing in that position and always wants to just improve the squad, and they don't let players develop anymore. I think there is something to that.
There is. Football is definitely a fickle game. Yeah. And it's definitely turned more fickle and more fickle along the years. So there's definitely a point. But as I said, in that specific situation, I don't think it was too valid.
Yeah, I think we obviously definitely needed a striker, definitely, for sure.
And then it moves on to the kind of meeting with Steve Hitchin, the head of scouting, which was really interesting, this kind of stuff he was coming out with. What did you think of it?
Yeah, because he was saying how in January he hates January.
Impossible, basically.
He said he hates it. He said he hates January because you can't. It's not a time for long-term planning. You kind of either get opportunities that come your way, or you get, or you're just making transfers in desperation. And that's the kind of what January is all about. It's not really about planning for the future or planning for the long term, which is so. And he was saying he hates January. He hates January. He was saying he was given. He said it's even harder because he's given a certain specific profile from Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho gives him a profile player to go out, and then he goes out and searches for it. And he goes out to look for his specific specification. So it's always quite difficult to get the player that they want.
I think what the most interesting thing about that chat is, and as well with the committee, is just seeing how the transfer window works and the kind of the backroom way. Because, obviously all we see is what happens on Sky Sports News, these ITKs and Twitter and all that rubbish. But it's actually such a good way to see an insight of what happens in the back end of like the inside runnings of a club on transfer window. It's actually mad.
Yeah, and all for all the people who say, our managers don't get a say and Levy has full control and all that. Well, clearly Jose has a big say because they come to him to ask him what he wants and what kind of profile of player he wants, not just position and everything. So it's not like Jose says, I want a right back, and then Levy goes and gets a right back. He says, I want a right back who can do this and that and these specifications. And then Steve Hitchens says he has to find the profile of the player. He has to work with the financial side of the club, and everything has to balance. And even actually at the beginning of the episode, Levy was talking about he feels like the fans don't appreciate how hard it is to get transfers over the line and do a transfer because there's so many different elements to come to one player signing for a club. It's in general quite difficult to get the players you want all the time over the line. And he thinks the fans don't
got a big pool of cash.
Yeah, to get anyone else. So Levy's saying it's more difficult than the fans appreciate. What do you think? Do you think that's him covering his arse, or do you think?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think yes, it's very hard to do a transfer under the circumstances in which we're trying to do transfers. But I think if you look at a Man City or a Chelsea or a Liverpool, even in that case, you identify the targets you want and you get them in.
You just pay the money and that's it. And whereas with us, it's always a balancing act between the money we can afford to prepare with player wanting to come, players' wages, the agent as well. It's more of a balancing act. Whereas it's been Man City is just like yes, whatever you want, and let's go.
Exactly. And then we moved on to Watford away. Gazzaniga, absolutely world-class performance, keeping us in the game, saving a penalty from Troy Deeney. I think we ended up winning it 1-0 or 0.
It was 0-0. And Lamela had that shot clear off the line in the last second.
Yeah, that was it.
And Chelsea Jedson came in just before this game, making his debut. They didn't spend too much time on him. You just saw him coming to the club and whatnot.
Yeah. And then obviously after that Watford game, it's the return of Hugo Lloris. Now, this one really, really got me because I was really interested to see what Hugo Lloris's pep talks were like before the game, because Harry Kane, I was really impressed with Harry Kane and what he's like in the dressing room before a game. But when I saw Hugo, different kettle of fish, absolutely different kettle of fish. You saw why this guy is captain of his country. You saw why he's the Tottenham captain. You saw why he captained his country to a World Cup win. The guys, I was lying in bed watching this and I was getting like pumped up for it, just watching it. The guy is a pure leader. It is. And I take back everything I've said in the past about him not being a leader, how maybe we should be looking at changing our captain, when I've been talking about Eric Dyer, Harry Kane. This guy is the leader of the club. Really
and you really saw that. Mm-hmm. This guy commands authority. You can see that in the dressing room. So much, how much respect everyone has for him. How much respect people have to what he has to say. And for sure, the pre-match pep talks compared to Harry Kane's. I criticised Harry Kane's pre-match pep talks in the last few Amazon reviews that we did, saying I don't think he's the best communicator. I can think completely the opposite with Hugo Lloris. I think he's a great motivator. Yeah, I think he plans what he's going to say. He plans what the things he has to relay to the team. He speaks with a lot more authority than Harry Kane does. He speaks with a lot more conciseness as well. He feel like he commands standards as well. He's quite intimidating by the way he commands with some of the players, and everyone was so happy to have him back. You saw Jose Mourinho talking in this press conference saying even Gazzaniga, who obviously gutted that he's going to be losing his place, even he because he's part of the Spurs family, he can't hide his delight at having Hugo back in the dressing room because of how much of a leader he is. And I think even compared to Harry Kane, I think he leads the team better. I think he leads the team more, and I think he gets the team more motivated. You can see that in the dressing room, and I was really impressed with Hugo Lloris, I must say.
I think everyone can make that mistake with Hugo Lloris, because when you're on the pitch and you're a goalkeeper as a captain, you don't really see it as much as when you're maybe defender, midfielder or striker and you're putting yourself about there on the pitch. And when you're a goalkeeper, you're stuck at one end of the pitch kind of thing and you don't really see. But when you see the insight of what he's like in the dressing room and how, I think there was a bit of an awe about Hugo Lloris. There really is. And I think, you know, this guy is well-deserved captain of Tottenham Hotspur, and I take everything I've said about him back.
Yeah, I was shocked and
Eat my
impressed
words
by
completely.
how loud and vocal he is in the dressing room. He says what he needs to say. He says what he's thinking. He doesn't hide. He doesn't just lead by example like a lot of people say. Maybe on the pitch he might not be as vocal, but in the dressing room for sure he is extremely vocal, and he'll say what he wants to say. And I thought I was really impressed with Hugo Lloris, I must say. Really must say. It was good to
And
have.
also you saw it in the Man City game, which was later on in the episode at half-time when it wasn't going right for us. He comes in and lambasts everyone.
That was from the
pretty
Southampton game. That was the next episode.
Southampton, sorry. Anyway, and that moving back onto the transfer window. You see Eriksen having that talk with Jose and Daniel Levy.
Really interesting stuff.
That was really interesting stuff. Jose kept pretty quiet. It was more kind of Eriksen and Levy going back and forth.
I think the more interesting parts about this was just seeing how Levy interacts in the transfer window, what he's like, how he talks to the players, how interesting it is with the deals being proposed and whatnot. What was quite interesting, he was saying he learns more about transfers watching Sky Sports News and actual offers coming to the club, which was quite funny because he's saying all these reports coming out Sky Italy and we haven't had these offers and whatnot. And I thought what was really interesting, so he sits Eriksen down to explain the situation. Eriksen obviously saying he wants to go into Milan, and Levy saying, look, from a Tottenham point of view, I just want to say, which I think you know, we want you to stay. We've always wanted you to stay. We think you're obviously a top-class player. We love you at the club. And he said any contractual offer that you receive from any club, we will match it. So I just want to make that clear that you anything financially we can do to make you stay, we are going to do that.
And then Eriksen went on to state that it's not about money. It's never been about money. And he said to Levy as well, you know it's not about money. And he says, yeah, I know. And he accepted that.
Yeah, but I think that was just Levy's one last saying, look, I just want to make it crystal clear. Any offer you get, we're going to match. So which is pretty interesting because I don't know how much he ended up going for, but it was interesting to see Levy's intent to try and get Eriksen to stay. And maybe people criticised him for the whole handling of the Eriksen situation. Oh, we should have sold him. We should let him run his contract down. Or Levy's just looking for a bit of extra money, or what? I don't know what people were criticising him for. But I think he did all he could, really, didn't he, Levy?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if that last ditch attempt to get Eriksen is just so he can have a bigger sell-on value. It might not be for the team. It could be just for the sell-on value. It could be a bit of both at the end of the day. But I think you've got to commend Levy with the way he handled that specific meeting, because I thought he handled it very well. I thought he left it on amicable terms with Eriksen. I don't think there was any bad feeling.
There wasn't bad feeling, but he was trying to kind of set Eriksen up for disappointment in a way, saying that he said this might not be what you want to hear, but if we don't get the offer, there is a cut-off point in the negotiations where it actually isn't worth selling you for the little players because we are suffering such an injury crisis. If we don't get this X amount of money, then it's actually not worth us selling you, because the money that we'll lose anyway from not qualifying for Europe or whatnot, it just isn't worth it. So unless we get a figure of 20 million euros, we're not gonna sell you. That's how much we need. And he was saying how 20 million euros for someone like your quality in this market is a steal, and he thinks we should be reimbursed for that. We shouldn't be looking to go letting you go for extremely cheap just because your contract's up in 6 months because of the quality you are. So I think that was right by Levy, and he ended up getting the money that he wanted at the end of the day.
On the flip side, any team could have waited 6 months and got him for free, though.
Yeah, but then at least we have him on the board for 6 months, I guess, even though he wasn't really giving as much as he could. At least he was giving something. That is why he was always included in the squads. And
it was interesting Mourinho's reaction to Eriksen as well, how he was saying how he gives 100%, but his 100% might not be what his 100% used to be, kind of thing.
Yeah. He said he's a great professional. He said you're a great professional, and that's why I don't mind keeping you around.
He was full of positives for Christian Eriksen, which was interesting.
Yeah, I think he is a good professional. He just when his contract was running down and he didn't have the same motivation to play for Tottenham like he used to, they always said that extra motivation to do the extra stuff wasn't wasn't there. However, his quality on the ball and and stuff like that was still pretty high.
Yeah,
that's what Mourinho was saying, and he's saying he's a very good professional. Yeah, as you said, only had positive things to say. So it was quite interesting that whole conversation. And then obviously, I think only a few minutes later, he completed his move to Milan. We got the offer in, and that was done. So, but it was interesting to see how he interacted with Eriksen there.
And then you had Harry Kane talking about Eriksen, saying you can't really blame a player that wants to try something new. Been with us 7-8 years.
Yeah. So there wasn't any ill feeling between the squad towards Eriksen.
But then the blockbuster moment of this episode.
Yeah.
Danny Rose comes in early to training in search for Jose Mourinho.
Because this was actually interesting because it was just after the Watford game. So Tanganga had just started a left back at Watford, and then straight after that game, Danny Rose comes into the dressing room, into the offices,
in search for Jose Mourinho. He goes to Jose, can I have a word? And Jose, of course you can have a word. They go into the office.
He pats him on the back like, good morning, how you doing, Danny? He doesn't know what he's in for.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's about to happen.
And Jose's all full of smiles. And then Danny Rose starts speaking. You see just Jose's face drop like, what the fuck are you saying to me? It was like that kind of vibe to it. And Danny was just like talking about how, you've got players who don't put their effort in training and not performing. Why are they playing? Why am I not playing? It's unfair. And he's talking about Tanganga playing as well. And then Jose just says it straight out. It was like, look, Tanganga's putting in 100% for the team. He's playing really well. He's got speed. He's strong, running up and down the wing. I gave you the chance against Liverpool. You didn't take it. And I don't feel you're training well. And you trained well in that build-up up until that Liverpool game. I gave you the chance. You didn't take it. And I give Tanganga the chance, and he grabs it with two hands, pretty much. That's the vibe of what he was saying.
Yeah, and on the flip side, Rose will say that, he said, true, I didn't play against Liverpool, but I can't. You're not giving me consistency. I'm not playing a lot of games. I'm playing every 2-3 weeks, and you're expecting me to have a really good game whenever I come on to keep my place. And he's saying it's not fair how he's being treated. And there are other players who do shit in training and shit in matches, and yet they get picked in the squad every week, and I'm not getting picked. And he was really unhappy with how Jose was treating him. And I think I can see both sides of the issue. I think he did play a few bits and pieces under Jose initially, but in the Premier League, considering Davis was injured pretty much in the first game, Rose didn't get too much of a chance under Jose Mourinho in the Premier League since he joined. So I kind of hear where what Rose was talking about. He opted for like Vertonghen at the left back a lot of times and stuff like that. So I think I can see Rose's frustration, but I think in the meeting he did come with a very combative style. He didn't come in saying, "Look, I don't know what I need to do to play. Like, what do I need to do to get
aggressive?" Danny Rose.
He was a bit aggressive. I can understand his frustration, but I think the whole end of the meeting saying, "Oh, I'm going to speak to Daniel about this" and stuff like that, wasn't very professional. Wasn't very mature way of dealing with things. I think he came into that meeting looking for problems, not solutions. And I think the way it ended showed his character. He didn't end the meeting asking how he could get back in the team. He ended the meeting asking
how
why
he could leave the club,
how he could leave the club, and how he was treated unfairly. And he wasn't a great perspective for me. But I do understand his frustration not being treated well. And I also feel like Jose started the meeting saying he was going to speak openly, and maybe didn't speak as openly as he could have. He said, I'm going to be honest with you. And he was honest with what he said, but I almost feel like it was what wasn't said, as opposed to what was said.
How much more honest could he have been, though?
He could have
trained better. And
he could have detailed why he's only been involved. He was only seen pitch time in 3 games since he's come in the team, as opposed to saying, oh, he was in and out. He wasn't really in and out. He wasn't really seeing any. He had one start in the Premier League, which was a bit. There
were injuries when Rose was injured when Mourinho first came as well. I thought.
You're right. He did have an injury as well, but he was in the squad for a lot of it. So. But I think, but what was interesting as well, I think the main point of why Rose had that conversation is because Tanganga played at left back. Yeah, he said it was a slap in the face.
He mentioned that he's like, when you've got young centre backs coming in from the academy,
right-footed
centre backs starting in my position, which is left back, it's a slap in the face, and I do get that, but he had
a great game.
Exactly. You see it in the performances. Tanganga grabs those games by the scruff of the neck. Every time Danny Rose plays, you're thinking.
And he's not playing at his best, is he? And he's getting beaten. Tanganga was great. I thought he played really well whenever he stepped in. He's so strong defensively, and he was aggressive. He was strong, And I think I'm more on Jose's side in there. I can understand Danny Rose's frustrations, but I am more on Jose's side of the interview. I just think Danny dealt with it the wrong way, and he ended up leaving. And then also was interesting the Danny Rose chat with Levy.
The Danny Rose chat with Levy, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that was really funny because you've got Levy going, yeah, you know, we got Bournemouth waiting for an offer, we got Newcastle is still waiting on them, and then Danny Rose. Well, before this chat even happens, you've got Rose, Mourinho and Levy talking to each other, and you've got like Levy going, you know, Rose thinks he should be playing up here, but we've only got offers from like Bournemouth and Newcastle. He's thinking he should be going to like Milan or Madrid.
No, he didn't actually say that. He didn't say Milan. But what was great was so Rose comes in the morning. Levy's sitting having his breakfast and whatnot, and Rose comes over to Levy, goes, "Any news, mate? Any news, boss, about transfers and whatnot?" And then Levy's like, "Well, Bournemouth aren't sure if they can afford the wages they're asking, and Newcastle, we haven't really had an offer from them yet. We're still waiting to hear from them." And Rose is sitting there like, okay, anything about Milan? You follow about the Milan stuff? You were talking about Milan before, and Danny's like, Levy's like, well, at the moment it's a no. I guess we'll have to see, but at the moment it's a no, mate. And Rose's like, okay.
He's like, they're trying to sell someone to PSV. If that happens, and maybe.
But basically, and so you can see in Rose's mentality, he's like, well, I need to be going to Milan or something like that, something exotic. But Levy's like, I don't know if Bournemouth can afford you. He's like that kind of stuff. So you can see where Rose's head is at. But I think Rose has maybe misjudged how poorly he's been playing for that period of time, because it's really been a long time.
I think so. The Danny Rose stuff was all blockbuster stuff. If you haven't watched it, you've got to check it out. And then it went on to like Bergwijn signing for the club. You saw all his family coming over from Holland, and the way they kind of try and bed them into like an apartment or a house like really quickly after signing, which I thought was quite interesting.
And you see,
they don't want them staying in a hotel. You want them to be settled straight away.
And it was interesting, the whole Bergwijn thing, because it was just, you saw it wasn't a long-term project to sign him, but it was a kind of situation where we had a lot of injuries. He became available, and it was a player we'd been tracking for a long time. And it was almost like an opportunity we couldn't turn down. So I feel like that was that signing. And it was good to see the whole Levy sealing that deal, being with Bergwijn's family and whatnot. So that was nice.
On FaceTime with Jose.
Yeah. So that was good stuff. And I think it was an opportunity, because it was like kind of a signing they're saying that City or Liverpool would make, but they weren't in the market for that kind of signing at the time. So it was kind of an opportunity we had to kind of take at the time for that kind of money. And it looks like it seems to be paying off at the moment.
Well, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it goes on to Man City at home, Bergwijn's debut. We all know what happened there, obviously.
And they kept making a big deal to Stephen, Man City debut. Like, a few people said that to him, like the coaching staff, and Mourinho said that.
And Bergwijn's like, these are the games I play on FIFA. I'm not used to playing these games. But it goes on to the City home game. Very poor first half. Lloris saves that penalty. And then at half time,
team talk.
I said Danny Rose was blockbuster. This was real blockbuster.
I must say that was one of the best halftime team talks I've seen. I haven't seen many, obviously, clearly, but this documentary, Jose Mourinho, gave me goosebumps. What he was saying to the Tottenham team at halftime. Obviously, we're getting dominated by Man City at halftime, and they're creating chances. They're being aggressive. They've got what was great was, so we saved the penalty, then Sterling tries to win another penalty, and Mourinho makes a point about how all the Man City players are surrounding the referee, trying to influence him into giving another penalty, trying to be bastards, basically. And what was actually quite interesting as well is how the players weren't, but it seemed like Mourinho was the only one in that first half trying to influence the referee. Of course, obviously, those famous clips of him charging up the touchline and trying to make influence. He was the bastard in that first half. Here, you kind of felt like the frustration that why Mourinho's probably thinking, why am I being the bastard here? And I need these players to have that mentality. And he says, listen, guys, we're giving them a good game. We're making it tough for them, but guys, you look how they react when you try to win a penalty. Look how the Man City players react, okay? You need to be bastards, because trust me, Toby's on a yellow card, and they know that. They know Toby's on a yellow card. So you guys listen to me when I say this. Walker is on a yellow card. Zinchenko is on a yellow card. Sterling is on a yellow card. You need to be cunts. You need to be bastards, because nice guys, they don't win anything. And it was unbelievable what you were saying. You really felt like the players were listening to every word. They're hanging on every word he was saying. They're really getting invested. And it was absolutely spot on whatever he was saying. And it worked a treat.
You know, it's a common theme. I don't know if it's in this documentary or for the whole season. I don't know if it's just polarized in the documentary. But these halftime team talks from Jose Mourinho, these players are taking note of every word he's saying, and the performance changes in that second half.
He really clearly he knows how to motivate his team from half time.
And this Man City game was the epitome of that. Literally, talking about the yellow cards thing. They get Zinchenko sent off in that second half.
Yeah.
Bergwijn scores on his debut. Sonny finishes it off. And an absolutely sensational second half that was.
That was more of a masterclass than I thought it was from Jose. Because I thought at the end of that game, having watched it, I thought obviously we were better in the second half. I did think we did get a bit lucky because Man City created loads of chances. But seeing how Jose got into the spoke to motivate that team in the half time, I really do believe that was a lot of it was down to him and what he was saying to the team. And they really bought into that fact. You know, you need to be bastards. You need to be have a bit of gamesmanship about you. You need to have that element of the game. Otherwise, you're just going to get bulldozed, and you're just going to get
Jose Mourinho's
and these other teams are just going to be on top of you all the time from that point of view. And it was so great to see Jose say that, and all that stuff was really great talk. You have to watch that. You have to watch that halftime team talk. And as you say, these halftime team talks, how many games are we losing or drawing at halftime? And Jose says the right things, and we end up winning the game and turning it around. Up until obviously we'll get into late next episode about all the injuries.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But yeah, this episode ends with the Man City game. Obviously, Tanganga had a great game. And it was actually last episode we mentioned it, but all the players love Tanganga, how much he plays, how well he plays and stuff.
He comes in dressed room, everyone's like, Tanganga!
Oh, what a man, he's done so well. But yeah, Jose was the star of the show for that game, and it was another really great episode, so much great stuff.
I thought this was the best episode yet. I really did. I thought I was so gripped by this episode, from the Danny Rose stuff to the Eriksen stuff, the transfer window stuff, the Man City game, that halftime team talk from Jose Mourinho.
Spine-tingling stuff.
Absolutely out of this world. But anyway, that is your episode 5 review. Let me know in the comment section below any thoughts you had regarding episode 5. Remember the stuff I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Join our Football Survivor League.
See if you can beat me and Ben. We're both in it.
£5 entry. Winner takes all. Link will be in the description below of how you can join that. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.